Have you ever wondered why some people always seem 3 steps ahead, while everyone else keeps reacting too late? Why certain minds stay calm in chaos, while others panic, explain, and expose themselves? This is not luck. This is not talent. This is a different way of thinking. And once you see it, you can never unsee it. Most people believe intelligence is about how much you know, degrees, facts, opinions. But real intelligence is not loud. It is not impressive on the surface. Real intelligence is silent awareness. It is the ability to read situations, people, and yourself without emotion clouding your judgment. And the uncomfortable truth is this: the world is not designed to make you smart. It is designed to keep you predictable. From the moment you wake up, you're being trained to react. React to notifications. React to insults. React to fear. React to pressure. Reaction feels natural, but it is the weakest mental position you can occupy. When you react, you surrender control. You let the outside world decide how you think, feel, and act. Most people live their entire lives like this, believing they're choosing freely, when in reality, they're being pushed silently from one emotional trigger to the next. Here is the harsh reality most people never face. Mental weakness is comfortable. It feels safe to follow the crowd. It feels easy to believe what everyone else believes. It feels good to be accepted. But comfort is the enemy of sharp thinking. Comfort dulls perception. Comfort rewards emotional decisions. Comfort keeps you blind to patterns that are right in front of you. Dangerously smart people are not smarter by birth. They are sharper by choice. They train themselves to pause where others rush. They question where others obey. They observe where others speak. This alone separates them from the majority, because when you stop reacting, you start seeing. Look closely at how people behave under pressure. Most reveal everything: their fears, their needs, their insecurities, their limits. They talk too much. They defend too fast. They try too hard to be liked. These are not random behaviors. These are signals. And the person who sees signals instead of stories holds the advantage. The reason most people stay mentally weak is not lack of intelligence. It is lack of awareness. Awareness requires discipline. It requires sitting with discomfort. It requires letting go of the need to explain yourself. And that is terrifying for the average mind. The ego hates silence. It hates not being seen. It hates not being validated. So it keeps you loud, emotional, and exposed. But intelligence grows in silence, in restraint, in the moments when you want to react, but choose not to. That pause is where power is built. That pause is where you begin to separate yourself from the crowd. Because the crowd is emotional. The crowd is impulsive. The crowd is easy to manipulate. Ask yourself this honestly. How often do you react instead of respond? How often do you speak just to fill silence? How often do you explain yourself to people who do not deserve clarity? These habits feel harmless, but they quietly train your mind to be weak. And weak minds are always controlled by stronger ones. The world rewards people who appear confident, but it is ruled by people who are aware. Awareness allows you to see motives beneath words, intentions beneath actions, patterns beneath chaos. Once you understand this, you stop taking things personally. You stop rushing decisions. You stop revealing yourself unnecessarily. And this alone makes you dangerous in the best way. This is not about becoming cold or heartless. It is about becoming conscious. Emotion is not the enemy. Uncontrolled emotion is. When emotions lead, logic follows too late. When logic leads, emotions fall into place. Dangerously smart people feel deeply, but they decide calmly. That balance is rare. And rarity is power. By staying until the end of this video, you will gain something most people never develop: the ability to think clearly when others lose control. You will learn how to protect your mind, sharpen your awareness, and move through life with quiet confidence. Not to dominate others, but to never be dominated again. This is only the foundation. If this section made you uncomfortable, that is a good sign. Discomfort means stay focused. Stay alert. Because the moment you stop reacting, you start reacting. Awareness alone is not enough. Awareness without discipline turns into overthinking. Discipline is what sharpens awareness into power. This is where most people fail. They see the truth, but they do not change their habits. They understand, but they do not transform. And so, they return to old patterns, old emotions, and old limitations. The first ruthless lesson is simple, but painful. Truth is not comfort. Comfort tells you what you want to hear. Truth tells you what you need to hear. Comfort says you are fine. Truth says you can be better. Comfort protects your ego. Truth challenges it. Most people avoid truth because it threatens their identity. They would rather stay familiar than become powerful. But growth begins the moment you choose honesty over ease. When you stop lying to yourself. When you stop defending your weaknesses. When you stop blaming circumstances. This is where intelligence starts to rise. The second lesson is even harder. Emotions are tools, not leaders. Emotions are fast. They are intense. They are persuasive. But they are not wise. Anger wants revenge. Fear wants escape. Desire wants pleasure. None of them care about your long-term success. They only care about immediate relief. That is why emotional decisions often lead to regret. Dangerously smart people do not suppress emotions. They study them. They observe the wave. But they do not drown in it. They wait. They breathe. They let logic take the lead. And in that space, they gain control. Control is not about dominance. It is about clarity. When your mind is calm, you see more. You hear more. You understand more. And that understanding gives you an advantage that cannot be faked. Because in a world full of noise, the quiet mind sees everything. The third lesson is observation over expression. Most people speak to be seen. Smart people stay silent to see. Every word you speak reveals something about you. Your fears, your hopes, your intentions, your weaknesses. Silence hides you while exposing others. When you listen more than you talk, people show you who they really are. Their body language, their tone, their hesitation, their contradictions. Information is power, and silence is the price you pay to gain it. This does not mean becoming distant or cold. It means becoming selective. You do not need to share everything you think. You do not need to explain every decision. You do not need to defend every action. The less you reveal, the more control you maintain. And control is freedom. The fourth lesson is detachment. Attachment creates dependence. Dependence creates fear. Fear creates weakness. When you attach your identity to outcomes, opinions, or validation, you give others power over your emotional state. You become reactive. You become anxious. You become predictable. Dangerously smart people detach from outcomes. They focus on effort, not approval. They commit to discipline, not applause. This makes them mentally untouchable. Because when nothing external controls your inner state, no one can manipulate you. Detachment does not mean you do not care. It means you care wisely. You invest energy where it grows. You withdraw from where it drains. You protect your mental space like sacred ground. Because your mind is your greatest weapon. And anything that disturbs it weakens you. The fifth lesson is patience. Impulse feels powerful, but patience is unstoppable. Most mistakes happen in haste. Most failures come from rushing. Most regrets are born from urgency. When you slow down, you see options. When you wait, you gain perspective. When you pause, you regain control. Time reveals truth. It exposes motives. It tests character. Dangerously smart people use time as a filter. They let others rush. They let others reveal. They let others make the mistakes. And then, they move with precision. Every situation has a hidden layer. But only the patient mind can see it. Only the calm observer can read it. Only the disciplined thinker can use it. This is how intelligence compounds. Slowly, quietly, powerfully. As these lessons begin to shape your thinking, something shifts inside you. You stop needing to prove yourself. You stop chasing attention. You stop explaining. And in that silence, your presence grows. People start to feel your calm. They sense your control. They notice your restraint. And without saying a word, you begin to command respect. This is the transformation most people never experience. Not because it is impossible, but because it is uncomfortable. It requires self-control. It requires humility. It requires discipline. But once you step onto this path, there is no turning back. Your mind becomes sharper. Your decisions become cleaner. Your life becomes more intentional. You are no longer drifting. You are directing. You are no longer reacting. You are choosing. And in that choice, you become something rare in this world. A mind that cannot be easily influenced. A presence that cannot be easily shaken. A person who moves with awareness, purpose, and quiet strength. And this is only the beginning of your mental evolution. At this stage, something important begins to happen. You no longer feel the urge to rush. You no longer feel the need to react instantly. The noise that once controlled you starts to fade. And in that quiet, you begin to notice how often the world tests you. Not loudly, not obviously, but subtly every single day. Life is constantly checking your awareness. People push boundaries to see how much they can take. Situations apply pressure to see how quickly you break. Words are thrown casually to see if they can control your emotions. Most people fail these tests without even knowing they were tested. They react. They defend. They explain. They expose themselves. And in doing so, they give away their power. Dangerously smart people notice the test the moment it appears. They feel the emotional pull, but they do not follow it. They recognize provocation as information, disrespect as a signal, pressure as a mirror. Instead of reacting, they observe and that awareness is one of the most ruthless lessons. Not every action is silence is not. Silence is You respond to everything. You train others to control your attention. When you stay silent, you force them to reveal theirs. Silence creates space, and space creates clarity. Most people are uncomfortable with silence because silence removes masks. It exposes intention. It slows the pace. And in a slow moment, truth rises. That is why the emotionally undisciplined rush to fill silence with words. They talk themselves into corners. They reveal fears they didn't intend to share. They negotiate against themselves. A quiet mind watches all of this without judgment, and that calm observation becomes a shield. Another ruthless lesson is understanding that respect is not demanded. It is demonstrated. It comes from consistency, from self-control, from boundaries that are firm but quiet. When you do not chase approval, people notice. When you do not beg to be understood, your words carry more weight. When you walk away from what disrespects you without drama, your presence grows stronger in absence. That self-mastery is the highest form of intelligence. Not controlling others, controlling yourself, your reactions, your impulses. You need to be right. Your desire to win arguments. Most conflicts are ego battles disguised as communication. The dangerously smart mind sees this and refuses to participate. It chooses peace over pride, control over chaos, long-term power over short-term satisfaction. This level of discipline creates a rare kind of confidence. Not loud confidence, not attention-seeking confidence, but grounded confidence. The kind that does not flinch when challenged. The kind that does not explain when misunderstood. The kind that does not panic when things go wrong. This confidence comes from knowing that no matter what happens externally, you remain steady internally. And here is the final truth most people never realize. Intelligence compounds when you stop proving and start becoming. When your actions align with your values. When your habits reflect your discipline. When your silence speaks louder than your words. At that point, people feel your presence before you speak. They sense your control. They respect your boundaries. Not because you asked for it, but because you earned it. The world is full of noise, opinions, reactions, emotional chaos. Anyone can be loud. Anyone can react. But very few can remain calm, observant, and intentional under pressure. That is what separates the ordinary from the dangerous. Not aggression, not arrogance. Awareness. You now understand something most people never do. That the mind is the battlefield. That control starts internally. That power is built quietly. If you continue to practice these lessons, your thinking will sharpen. Your decisions will slow and strengthen. Your presence will change. And without forcing anything, life will begin.